Hi stamping friends, Melissa Kerman here with Melissa's Crafting Treehouse. Today I have the tutorial for the projects that were March free kits for people who purchased qualifying purchases in March. And these were also the projects I did with my mini classes and clubs during the month of March. So my club members love these projects. They're so much fun, little elements to each of them, and I'm excited to share them. So we're going to start with this card right here. This is done with 2 stamp sets. The Cake Crazy stamp set, which is in the Occasions catalog. It's sort of a little wacky, this stamp set. When I saw it, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, but I've had so much fun making this project, and I think you'll enjoy it too. This next one is the Delicate Details, which by the time you watch this, it will be gone. It's a celebration item, and I've also really enjoyed playing with this, so hopefully you got yours before it was too late. So let's get started. So this is what your kit's going to look like, what you get, the parts and pieces for this project. And what I'm going to try to focus on today is really just the fundamental pieces that might not be obvious. Some of the actual attaching, whatever. I'm going to sort of speed through. I'm going to leave that there so we can have it in front of us. So I just grab my work surface here and my little piece of white paper. And there's a whole bunch of stamping in this. One of the cool things about this stamp set, I'm going to get it back out, it's got all these stamps that layer one over the other. So we're going to do a lot of layering. So we're going to start with our Peekaboo Peach ink pad, and this bottom element right here is actually 3 different images layered one on top of the other. So the most important detail on this one is that the images really have to be justified way to the bottom of that piece of paper, otherwise you won't have enough room for the word at the top. So I'm starting with the Peekaboo Peach because it is straight along the bottom, but it's more solid than the red image. So it proved to be a little bit more effective starting with this one. Now you'll also notice, if you're a demonstrator, you might appreciate this, that I have little pieces of cardstock on each of my blocks telling people which color to use for which, because we're using a lot of stamps to create this big, tall, fun, crazy cake. So we're going to start with this at the very bottom, and I'm going to justify it closer to the bottom than I probably think I should. Right there. So it's pretty close. It's I'd probably say that's about 3/16 of an inch for those of you who like things that are precise. The next I'm going to do is go back in with my Wild Wasabi, and I'm using the other image that is similar in that it has the the diamond shapes, I guess, Harlequin, whatever you want to call that. And these little Harlequin shapes or diamonds nest in the open spaces around the Peekaboo Peach ones. So, and I just re-inked that so it's nice and juicy and dark. And let me see, I might just zoom in and see how that works. Alrighty, might be able to see a little bit better. Okay, so next I'm going to come in with my Watermelon Wonder. This is one of the in colors, the 2015-17 colors that's going to be going away as of the end of May. It will go on the retired list probably, I think, late April is when it usually comes out. And so it's really a good time to get the ink pad and the re-inkers and cardstock, anything coordinating with those in colors. Because once they go on the retired list, they pretty much go away like super fast, and they tend to run out, and then people can't get them and they get sad. So I don't want people to be sad, so get yours quick if you need it. All right, and your ink pads, of course, with the re-inkers can last a very long time. So I'm going to take my Fantastic word, and I'm going to kind of butt it right up against the red. It's a little bit away from it, but I think it'll be okay because I got my Watermelon Wonder pretty low on there. Okay, next I'm going to come in with this image right here, and I need them labeled too because there's a lot of stamps to keep track of. So on this image you can see that it's a straight line along the bottom. There we go, I'll bring that into the screen. So that helps me to know where to put it, and I hope I'm not putting my head in the screen as I do this, but if I am, oh well, forgive me. Okay, so there we go with our wild wasabi. Okay, moving right along. Next, I'm going to come in with my mint macaron. This is actually also one of the 2015-17 colors that is retiring. And for this one, I actually stamped it off because I found that it was a little bit dark if I didn't do that. So let's see. And then I'm just going to take those little circle images and sort of nest them in the openings of that little cake. So pretty straightforward here, but it's just a lot of stamping, which makes it kind of fun. All right, next I'm coming in with my Watermelon Wonder. Again, one of the retired colors, or retiring colors, I should say. One of the little tips I gave my club members and customers who did this in person was to, when you put your stamp over the top, you sort of bring it down, since it's clear, so that it actually overlaps some of that, just to gauge your spacing. So you'll bring it down, you can sort of see the mint macaron there, and then lift it up until you can't see it anymore. And that'll help you get it nice and close, but not overlapping. Okay, gonna do the same thing in terms of overlapping with this tiny little itty bitty image that is the flame that goes on top of the candles. I don't know if I'm on camera or not. Barely. Just try not to get my head in there. Okay, there we go. So, there I got my little candles. So see, I have just enough space in there to do my words on the top. And I know they're around here somewhere. There we go. So it's a hope you have a, and that's done in the wild wasabi right around the top. There we go. Easy peasy, right? Some people really had a hard time with the beginning part, which was just getting that image butt up against the bottom. But if you know that going into it, it should help. So the other thing that you might not see on my card, which I'll try to help you see in here, is I did a little bit of Wink of Stella on the Fantastic. I can't really see it. And I also did it on the candles. So just to show you the Wink of Stella, it's a very fine tip brush. This is the clear Wink of Stella. And there's also a gold. And when you're in person, you can really see it a lot better. So you can see I'm just basically drawing over the words, the letters rather. So I'm not going to finish that because you get the idea. So just a few little tips on the final assembly. Well, actually, I take that back. I've got one other important step to share with you. So I'm going to just get some of these ink pads out of the way and move on to the next step. So one of the cool things we did on this project was we used the one of the images from the Delicate Details, right, this stamp set, and we're using, which image am I using? That one right there. We're actually using another one of the images from this set on one of the other cards and doing the same basic technique. So one thing I'm going to show you is when you're stamping an edge image like this, you know, you could actually just stamp it right there in the corner and those images will overlap. That doesn't look too good to me. That kind of looks a little bit messy. So an alternative is to put the images right next to each other. Some of you may have seen my little graphic that I put on my website too, but so I'm going to show you this in live, in action. So there's a third option, and I think this is really the neatest option. So we're going to use some Post-it notes with our piece of Peekaboo Peach. Okay, hello. And I'm just going to put them right in the corner so that it splits the corner. Also called bisecting the corner if you're a math person. And you'll see that you can sort of see the point of the paper exposed. And I do that because this Post-it note has a little bit of thickness to it. And so when you stamp along here, it's not going to quite reach the paper just because of that tiny little bit of height. So if I put it away from the corner just a little bit, it will pretty much get right up to the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, and looking at my straight edge, and I'm going to do what I was describing before, where I kind of take it off the paper and until I can see the white, and then I move it back onto the paper until I can see, and then I'll kind of move my head over, see my head again, so that I can see how close it is to the edge. And then I go ahead and stamp. That's probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is just getting it against the edge evenly. Okay, so there's step one. So there we go. Now I'm going to mask this corner and do the same thing on this corner, exposing the corner, the point of the corner, I should say. And then I can do the same thing. Now it doesn't go all the way, and that was far from perfect, but oh well, it'll be good enough. It doesn't go all the way, so I'm going to just continue it to the corner like that. Okay, so that wasn't my best work on camera, but you know, whatever. We do the best we can. So anyway, so here is a finished, perfect, you know, one, somewhat perfect as it gets maybe, by the magic of TV. Isn't that lovely? So I just want to also show you that you can do this with the other images in the stamp set, and we will with one of the other ones on the other project. So there's another finished one, but I used the bigger lace on this back side, and I think it looks so cool. Hope you do too. So the last bit of this is just the assembly. I'm going to attach that piece to there. You'll have an inside piece. This focal piece that's already assembled. Again, the magic of TV. Has dimensionals on the back. I've attached, stamped my birthday sentiment along this piece of green. And then I'm just going to go ahead and attach it. And I'm all done. Yay. I hope you'll like it. All right. On to card number 2. So for this one, we're going to be using the Make a Medallion stamp set. Also, will be gone by the time you view this video. And the Delicate Details, of course. Love these two stamp sets, those late release items that came out. And the card that kit that you're going to get is the materials for this version, or sort of. And then this was my original version, but it wasn't really very practical to do it with that gold foil in the background. So what I'm actually going to show you is there's 2 different focal approaches to the focal piece on this one. This one I actually stamped the outside image in the garden green, and I stamped the other image in Versamark and then heat embossed. On this one I did something a little bit different, and anybody can really do that version, but this version is a little bit more complicated, and if you look at it, it's kind of looks sort of antique-y, and I don't even know that you can really appreciate it on camera, but essentially the inside image, one of the images looks sort of greenish gold, and the other image looks pure gold. And it's subtle, so hopefully you can appreciate that subtlety. So I'm going to show you how to do that once on this card. Also, as I mentioned before, we're using another one of the images on the outside edge in the same way, so we're going to bevel those corners in the same way. So while I was off camera setting myself up, I went to go and sort of experiment with that edge and, you know, figure out why I was having trouble with the edge. And one of the things I realized was that with these photopolymer stamps, they're bendable. So if you take them off and you put it on and it's not exactly straight, you're going to end up with an image that's stamped not quite straight. So that's what happened right there. So the other thing that I realized, and I did end up doing one that came out, you know, pretty close to just right on the back side, good enough. But I wanted to show you, you're going to laugh at me on this one, but really the way to approach this is, number one, you can take your stamp and test it along the edge of your page, and I see you can't really see it here, but if you test it along the edge of your page, you can tell really where the outside boundary is, so that helps. The other thing to do is, since you're not going to be on camera, but I'm going to demonstrate this just for the fun of it, you put your Post-it notes in the corners, and then you do this, and my head's going to get in the camera. But this is an example of how you really want to be when you're doing this, literally right over the top. so that you can really see that edge. Okay, so is my head in there, my big ponytail, or rather my little ponytail, because I just cut my hair. Anyway, that's just to show you, that's going to get you a much straighter line if you can really be right over the top of your piece. So that's my little demonstration piece. So the layering on this is super simple. We'll go ahead and just go over that real quick here at the beginning. So of course you stamped this piece. It's going to sit on your card base with your white on the inside. Your garden green is attached directly to the front, and then that one goes on here. And then you've got a bunch of layering. These are cut out with a combination of the circles framelets. These two scallop shapes are cut out with the circles, layering circles framelets. And this one in the middle is cut out with the stitched edge framelets. And then your focal piece, this is a piece of watercolor paper, and it is also cut out with the stitched edged circles. It's actually a combination of circles, squares, and ovals. Thank you very much. All right, so normally I would probably recommend that you take a piece of watercolor paper and do your stamping on this and then cut it out. But since what you're getting in your kit is a pre-cut circle, stitch edge circle, I'm going to go ahead and do it right on here, and hopefully I can do a decent job getting it centered on the circle. So I have a red piece of paper in the background so that I can see the edges of the circle a little bit more, a little bit better. And I think that's going to help a lot to make sure I can get it in the center. So I inked up this image in the garden green, and I made sure that my ink pad was nice and juicy, and it's, you know, fairly close to centered. And then I'm going to actually go over this really lightly with my embossing buddy, not too much. You can see I was really gentle with it. I just tapped a little bit, but not too much, and that's kind of a crucial step to this whole process. So then I'm going to take my second image, and the portion of this image, how do I describe that, right? That's rounded right there and has a little point on the other end, is what's going to nest into this portion right here, where my finger is. All right, so the best way to do this is to get right over it like I did before. I think I'm going to move it away so my head's not in the camera. And you find where the point nests in one spot, and then eyeball it in two other spots on different places in the medallion, and then stamp. And this was done in Versamark, so of course you can't see it, but I'm going to go ahead and grab my gold embossing powder and put that in. And what should happen is that it sticks quite well to the image that was Versamarked, and it sticks a little bit to the garden green ink. Now normally if you use the embossing buddy, it's not supposed to stick, but when I did this, this was sort of a crazy little happy accident, I guess you should call it, because I ended up getting some of the green through the gold, because the gold's actually stuck to the green, which normally it might not. So I'm going to go off camera for a sec and heat this. All right, so my heat embossing is done. I'll move this red piece out of the way and look at it nice and close. You can see I really didn't get it quite centered, but you have two sides, so when you do yours, hopefully you'll be able to get it better centered, or use your Stamp-A-Majig, which will help. But when you look at this image, you can see that what I was talking about before, that the image that was stamped in Versamark is gold, and then the other image that has you can see the green sort of in behind. Okay, so next step. We're going to take our piece and we're going to spray it with some water, and you can see a little bit of that green's coming through, which is kind of cool. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. And keeping it on the paper towel, I'm going to grab my aqua painter, and I'm just going to kind of spread some of that green that's just sitting there, the residual green, on there. Make sure it's all wet. And then I'm going to take my little palette. This is some more garden green ink, and just going to color as I wish. So I'm getting it kind of dark, but you can do it lighter if you want. And just watercolor over it. I had people in the class who wanted to add a little purple into that image, and so I gave them whatever, some Wisteria Wonder ink, And if you want to lighten it up a little bit, just add a little water. See, I squeezed my aqua painter and spread it around a little bit more. And there we go. Really pretty. All right, so moving right along. Now I have done a bunch of these as I was demonstrating. And you can see each of them is going to come out just a little bit different between the watercoloring and the heat embossing. So you can see them. So pretty. I love this regal look. Move that out of the way. So when you attach this piece to your assembled piece right here, you're going to use some white glue because the glimmer paper is not really going to want to stick to anything else. Just put some of that on there and go ahead and attach it. And you might want to take a block and put it right over the top to hold it down and set it out of the way. And then, last but not least, I took a couple of pearls. See, I got a big one right there in the center and then two on the sides. And I used my gold wink of Stella and I colored them. So took my paper piercing tool, which I can't seem to find, and lifted them up and put them on my focal piece. And then I went and colored over it with my gold wink of Stella. See, it has gold on the back side. So, and then finally I got a little strip along the bottom, so it's really just assembly from there. I hope you like the card. Alrighty, on to the last card. So these are basically the same. The only difference is I've added a little bee to this one. Is that not cute? Several people actually colored in their bee, which was very smart. I haven't yet done that. But that's the card. That's the next one. So I'm just going to show you a couple little preliminary pieces that I've already attached. I've got a base black card that's 4 1/4 by 11. My Daffodil Delight piece goes all the way side to side, and I have a tiny little strip of Delightful Dijon on the bottom. Delightful Dijon is one of the 2015-17 colors. That's retiring. So that's kind of your starting point, and of course you will get an inside piece for yours. This is the piece that goes in behind the word, and I just want to show you how I did the attaching of my ribbon. So I'm using some of this lovely metallic ribbon that is a sale-a-bration item, or I should say was. And I'm just going to put a couple of glue dots on the back side of this piece of soft suede cardstock, and I'm just pressing it on with my finger, one on each end and one in the middle, so you can sort of see them there. Make sure that's off the edge. And then I'm going to leave my ribbon down here on the work surface, and I think I'll go ahead and zoom in again. And then I'm just going to actually place it right down on it, exposing as much of the ribbon or as little of the ribbon as I want. So there we go, simple as that. And then I can just snip it off the back so that it's even. So here's a piece where I've actually already put the black on, and I just need to attach my word. I stamped the happy birthday in the basic black archival ink. Now I should point out that the stamp sets we're using on this one is the, I think I'll zoom out, the Big On Birthday stamp set, one of my favorites. Probably seen me show it before. And the Touches of Texture stamp set is where that tiny cute little bee comes in. And then we're also going to be using the Hexagons embossing folder. So we got sort of some of the basics out of the way. So next I'm going to show you how to get that gorgeous background. So I've given myself a little bit of a head start here. I'm using my Daffodil Delight ink and just rubbing it against the very vanilla cardstock here. And I'm going strong with this yellow because it is the lightest color that we're using. So I want to make sure that it stands out and doesn't get overpowered by the other colors. The next one we're using is Delightful Dijon. Again, that's one of the colors that's going away in May. And I'm going to kind of do a light touch with this because it's kind of a strong color. So I'm just not pressing as hard, even though it looks like I'm still getting a good amount of color. So you kind of just gauge it as you wish. Some towards the center. And then last but not least, I'm going to come in with my soft suede ink. And I'm sort of going for this, you know, look of a honeycomb, if you will, since we're using the hexagons embossing folder. I'm going to bring some of that soft suede out to the edge. So there's no kind of rhyme or reason to this. This is just trying to get a little bit of all three colors in various places throughout the paper, and just get a good amount of color on there. So there's really no right or wrong. It's more about what you like. So, and each of them are going to come out different. That's one of the fun things about this technique, and I guess about a lot of the techniques I like to do. So next we're going to take our hexagons embossing folder, and I'm going to find the side that has the Stampin' Up! Or Sizzix on it, and I'm going to be working with this side. And I'm going to, let's see, grab a spray bottle, and I'm going to move things out of the way, and I'm just going to spray that side of the embossing folder till it's good and wet. And then I'm going to tilt it this way, take my piece of paper and put it right there, and then I'm just going to literally stamp the water onto that sponge surface. And you can press with your hand. This is another part where it's kind of, you don't really know what you're going to get. Depends on how much water you used and how much you pressed. But you can see, like I probably got a little bit less water over in that corner, although it's yellow so you can't see it as well. But that image starts coming out, and this is, I think, one of the coolest things I've done in a long time. I just really love it. So, and I think the thing that's so cool about it is not even so much what you see in front of you, but the fact that there is so much potential for what you can do with this, because you can do it with any embossing folder. You could even spray a stamp and stamp any image and stamp it on a sponge surface and get all kinds of cool effects. So I was dying to play with another version of this. I'm just going to quickly show you another one that I did. That's with the Petal Burst embossing folder. I just love those colors. That actually has 3 colors in it: the Cucumber Crush, let's see, Emerald Envy, and Island Indigo. And Cucumber Crush is one of the colors that's going out. It's one of the 2015-17 colors, so just wanting to play with it before it's gone. And I just love how that turned out, so stay tuned for a card sample made with that sometime. So anyway, so there's my finished piece. Now it's really just all about assembly at this point, so just a quick little look. So this piece is attached onto black. Obviously I have backed this similar size piece, same size piece, to a black piece, put dimensionals on the back, and then it's just going to get attached to my front. And then once that's assembled, and I'll do that right now, snip off the back using my wonderful ribbon cutting scissors. And if you turn it over, you can really hold the scissors against the edge, and let's see, that got over, and just get a nice clean edge there. So that's your top. So that's just going to get attached. And when I did mine, I actually justified my word a little bit over to the right, and then just kind of placed my bees where I wanted them. Same with that one. And then the last step is my sequins. And when, in your packet, if you got a packet, you're going to have a piece of this, whatever it is, paper, with some sequins on it. These sequins come from a big roll, and I just pull them off the end. And then I put yours, of course, onto this piece of paper with the gold, the gold sequins on to the glue dots. So, and then you just pull it off and place it wherever you want it. So that's pretty much it for this project. So I hope you've enjoyed these 3 projects, and if you did, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and leave a comment if you like, and share it with friends. I'd really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining me today. Bye. Happy stamping.